Well, we want to thank you all for commenting on our Facebook page with a lot of questions that you have, and I've chosen some questions to answer. And this is from Chad Davis, and he says, I've heard that one may need to swap locations of the brood boxes in the spring. What's the best month to do this? What are ideal weather conditions? And good question, Chad. One of the things that's important to me is never to change those boxes until it gets pretty nice in the evening. So I'm usually looking at May the 1st here in central Illinois before I really begin to break up the brood nest area. So temperatures at night for me need to be near 50 degrees at night, maybe 45. So you're talking about, you know, pretty solid nights of decent weather. I don't want to reverse the deep boxes. The two deeps is what we're talking about. A lot of times the bees will move up into the top deep during the winter where the heat is and where the honey is. And so in spring, the bottom deep may be completely empty of all bees. And so once it warms up, you can reverse it. That way now the bees can go up into empty comb and there can be more resources brought in. The queen can lay a lot more. But if you do that too early, I fear that it will be too cold down below and the heat will rise up into the empty comb. So I kind of wait till good weather. So the ideal weather conditions and when you do it, Chad, for me, May the 1st and warmer nights, because bees really don't grow and expand until the nights get pretty warm. We got another question now from Brian Davis. Brian says, David, what is the window of opportunity for a virgin queen to mate? Studies have shown, Brian, that once a virgin queen fails to go out within 21 days on her mating flight, that she loses the urge to ever fly out and mate. So you got about 2, maybe 3 weeks tops to get her mated, or it's just not going to happen. So keep that in mind when you start to raise queens, especially early in the year. For example, in the fall, and this has happened to me before, I'll wind up with the virgin queen in the fall after the drones are dead. And lo and behold, you overwinter with the virgin queen. In the spring, she's never going to go mate. So you're stuck with the queen in there, but she's not going to be a mated queen. So that's a good question. This is from Bonnie. And Bonnie says, if you lose your colony to mites, is there anything you need to do to prepare the hive for the new bees next season, such as cleaning or burning? Well, that's a good question. I would say yes and no. If your bees died, so did all the mites, right? They die along with the bees. However, it's possible that you might think that the mites probably were contributing viruses. They were spreading viruses throughout the bees. And we would hope those viruses also would have died with the living organism of the bees. There are fears that perhaps in that comb, there could be traces of other pathogens like maybe nosema. Of course, you always fear the worst with American foul brood and European foul brood. There's other spores that could still survive in that comb. So be cautious about jumping in there and dumping a package in without knowing why your bees died. If you fear they died from mites and ingested mites and viruses, then I would be okay using those combs again. But if I fear they died from something that may still be lurking and surviving in that comb, I would not reuse that comb. And so those are things you sometimes just, who knows, right? Okay, next question is from Keith Gibbons. And Keith says, bought one of my first hives from them 5 years ago. So not a question, but a nice compliment. So thanks, Keith. Glad to have your business. 5 years ago, you put us on the map. You helped us become what we are today by supporting our business. So we do appreciate that a lot. We have more questions from the Facebook page. So I want to encourage you to visit us online at honeybeesonline.com or visit us at our Facebook page where we have a lot of new information almost on a daily basis, and you'll enjoy that. Next, we have Cheryl Russell. When splitting a hive up into nukes in this area, what time frame and temperature range is best, assuming you already have enough drones or you are installing a mated queen? Same thing applies for me, Cheryl. I'm going to go by May the 1st. I'm in Illinois, central Illinois. We really can't plant much in the way of gardens until the Mother's Day in the middle of May. And so I'll jump a little bit early, sometimes in late April, like I said, but usually first week in May is when I feel like I can do anything with bees and get away with it. I've done some things earlier with bees in the month of March, and I've gotten burned by Alberta clippers that will bust through Illinois and keep us well below freezing, even in the month of April, for sometimes a week at a time. Evening temperature is almost down to 0. So it's a nail biter. If you get, why go crazy starting early? Once it warms up, bees have plenty of time in May to get things going. So just don't try to do it too early. Don't split hives until you are for sure that it's warm enough to support those smaller splits during the evening months, during the evening time, during the months of April, if you do it too soon. I would never do it in March here in Illinois. Now, you're watching this video and you live, in the South, you can get by with being a month ahead of us sometimes. Okay, Adrian says, we have bees in a house that doesn't belong to us. The landlord is not fussed about dealing with them right now. I was wondering, is there any way of luring the bees into an empty hive? Well, a lot of times you do have bees in homes, and a lot of people do try to lure them out by putting an empty beehive in front of the opening where the bees are going. I have never had any success with this. If I think about how the colony works, the bees are in a house, the foragers are going in and out. The queen is laying eggs inside the house. There's brood to take care of. There's resources in the wall of the cavity of the house. The queen is laying eggs. Nurse bees are feeding the larvae. They're keeping pupa warm. Some people will put screen funnels over the opening so the foragers go out. The funnel kind of goes, narrowed to a point so the foragers can go out, but now the foragers can't really go back in because the opening of the screen is small enough. They could fit in, but they don't. They're kind of confused. They hang out on the screen. They don't go back in. Essentially, what you're doing when you do that is starving out the colony because resources aren't coming in. So you wind up with a lot of dead bees in your wall, unprotected honey, which could result in honey dripping. And dripping honey is not good. It attracts ants. It could attract roaches, mice, black mold, all the bad stuff that goes on. When the bees are in there, they keep it in check. So I have never had any success even attempting to do that. Other people tell me they have. And I don't know whether they had unique circumstances going on, but it's just hard to get a queen ever to walk out of a hive because there's a better place to live. That's really, really rare. So my take on that is that you have a 1% chance of that ever taking place. Okay. I've had people ask me to do it, and I've done it, and it's never worked. I tell them it's not going to work. They want me to I'll humor them, and I'll put a hive and all that stuff. Never happens.